I welcome you to this session. Most welcome. Most welcome. Once again, thank you for your wonderful, wonderful presentations. Let's start with you, Mr. Benankoma. You told us on real estate and what someone should think about when they are going into the real estate sector. From your experience, how can someone that is just taking off, how can they start? Should they start with the mortgage option you talked about? They should start with, I know you talked about, why not you start in shares? But you can also shed more light. How should the mindset be before they think of, I want to have my own house? What should the mindset be? Is it now, I've graduated, I need a house? Or is it, let me multiply the money? Or what should the mindset be?
Thank you so much, Pastor. The mindset should be, I need to have a house at a certain point in time. Because if you look at a mortgage, interest rates are 29%. So if you get a mortgage now, the challenge is that you'll probably be paying, say, 2 million kwacha for a house that you can rent for 300,000 kwacha. So it doesn't make any sense at all. So for me, the first thing is maybe you rent and then you start to do side hustles. Because for me, I don't think you should start to build a house immediately. It will just take up a lot of your money, and it will actually cloud out your mind to think differently or to think of doing other things. So a house should be thought of probably after 4 or 5 years to put up. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you.
Can I jump in on that?
Yes, please do.
The reason my wife is shaking her head because she understands that's the same philosophy we use at, in our house. Of course, we own houses, but there was a time that we had this idea that we wanted to expand our business. We sat down and were like, what can we do? Okay, let's just sell our house, meaning the house that we stay in. And at that particular time, it was the only house. We were like, okay, we'll sell this house. Then after selling this house, we'll invest the money. There'll be multiplication of the money. After getting that multiplication of the money, we'll build several houses from one single house. So indeed, I'm agreeing with you, sir, that the idea of rushing into building a house, something that will just be staying in without be making you more money, while you could have invested the same money and make more money and multiply and build more houses, is indeed a solid idea that we don't have to get into a rush of building houses.
Wonderful. And again, before I cross over to them, the second question. You know, there is building small houses. Then there is building one mansion. How do you look at those two? For someone that's starting, how should they think? Should they think of, can I build this 1-bedroom house, 2-bedroom houses, and maybe rent them out? Or can I build a mansion where the first, tenant will pay me 800,000? From your experience.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I think for me, build small houses. If you reach a certain level in life, if I build a house now, I'll be able to get a CEO to get into that house. If you're just starting out and you build a 5-bedroom house, it will be very difficult to knock at the door of a CEO. So it's all about relationships. At a certain level, you'll be able to attract a tenant. So I would suggest small houses because our economy is still small and you don't need a big, even when you're starting, we started with a big house. It's just a lot of expenses. You need probably 2 gardeners, 3 gardeners, 3 guards, 2 housekeepers, a chef. That is a lot of cost. We should have used, probably that money could have gone elsewhere. Agul, you can stay in a 1-bedroom house. You can stay in a 2-bedroom house. Stay there, and then you can spend, buy and buy. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Let me come to them, and then I'll start taking questions from the audience. So at this point, if you have a question, you lift up your hand and the protocol people will help me. We can't take all questions. I've got several of them that are coming from different places. So they'll bring you a microphone. We'll take maybe 2-3 questions. Then we'll switch to those that are sending questions from outside Blanta here. And then after that, we'll go to another thing. You said you work as a couple. One question that comes to mind. When you go to your workplace, what do you do and what does she do? Like all of you are, you are welding, or one is accountant, another one is, just to tip us, because, after this, we are going to work with our wives and our husbands. What do you do practically? What is your normal week like?
I don't know if you'll be able to respond on that. Are you going to respond, or shall I do it?
Maybe I can start by saying, at first, it was different because we were working at the same premises. But now, so we should respond depending on now. Because now, in Lilongwe, we have our shop, which is opposite Gateway Mall. That's where we have the already made furniture ready to be sold. So as of now, I am mostly at the workshop, at the shop with the sales ladies. And our workshop is now along Bypass Road, which we built, which was being made similar to this warehouse. It's a big workshop. So that is where my husband is usually. So that's how we are dividing now.
Yeah, okay. What she's trying to say is when you want this thing to work, the working of a husband and a wife as a team, as partners in one business, you have to define the laws. What laws are you going to be, what laws am I going to be praying? What are her laws? They don't have to be infringing of activities whereby somebody jumps into another person's activities. So in that way, when you have those defined laws, at least everyone, both of you, you know what kind of assignment you're going to deal in that particular day. So you first define the roles, then it'll be easier to work as a husband and a wife in any kind of a business.
Wonderful. One more question, then I come to what the people are asking. People say that the secrets of people are in their habits, what they do in their normal week, on their normal day. Starting with you, Ben. Without decorating, coloring it. When you wake up, let's say today is what? Friday. Maybe Friday is not the best of days, but let's use Friday or Thursday or Tuesday. What do you normally do? What time do you wake up, sir? Are you an early morning or you're a late night person?
So I retired from the bank. My sleeping pattern is kind of messed up. My wife retired as well, so I usually wake up at, maybe sometimes I wake up at 2 a.m. So I'll read the news, I'll read international news.
You wake up and you read?
Yes, I read.
He wakes up and he reads. Okay. Yes.
And then sometimes when I see the trains and I know some brokers who agree if they are watching. I send them emails even at 3. So what happens, I will send them emails 3, then I'll sleep at probably around 5, then I'll wake up at 11. So all my programs, if somebody says he wants to meet me at 9, 10, it will not happen because I usually sleep between, after 2 to 5, I sleep between 6 and around 10-ish in the morning, and then I start my day again. But I read a lot.
Wow, wonderful. What is your normal day like? Maybe you answer as individuals. What is your normal day like?
Our normal days, okay, there's our past and our current. So I'll answer according to our current normal day. Usually we wake up at 12 p.m. to pray. We pray for like maybe 30, 40 minutes. Me and my wife, we sit down and pray to God the new day, for the blessings of the new day, to give us new effort and the energy to face their activities.
That's midnight.
That's midnight, every day. Then we sleep again. My wife wakes up around 4:30, 5 o'clock to prepare the
4:30,
kids.
that's
Yeah,
my
4:30,
alarm.
yes. Yeah, to prepare the kids, and they're like, then I have to be up by 5, half 5, and then I take the guys to school. From there, I proceed to work. So usually she registers at work at the office maybe around 8 or half 8. I think that's her usual time. Then we knock off at 5, depending on which day. Like on Tuesdays, it means we have to knock off at 3, because Tuesday is like our normal fasting day. Friday is again our normal fasting day. So Tuesday and Friday we knock off at 3. We go to Botanic Garden to pray. If there are inconveniences, we just call each other. Okay, we'll meet at home. We'll do our Bible studies. Then we pray. So we pray for the divine expansion of our business. But we center much that God should use us in a way that pleases Him, because we consider ourselves as kingdom finances. So when God is speaking to us, what we usually pray for, we have to listen what God is telling us. We don't have to mind what God is telling us. Okay, I think if we do this, we'll spend this much money, maybe we're losing. No. God should give us a heart that we should be accepting what He's telling us to do with the money He's blessing us. So usually that's how we spend our days.
Wow. So they managed to still find time to fast, to pray. Not with 2 million. You are giving us troubles. You can't come to church. We are following you only to find you at the lake. You are hearing here. Let's start to take a few questions from the audience. Please, you introduce your name very briefly. Just say your name, no titles, your name. Don't say anything else, ask the question. And when you're asking the questions, please address it to the one you want to answer. Address it to Mrs. Kanseza here, Mrs. Christina, whatever you want to call her, then him, David, then Benang Nkoma. Address it to an individual. Thank you. Yes.
I have 2 questions. The other
Please
one.
ask one. Choose one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it will go to both of them. What is one of the riskiest trading decision that you have ever made, and how did it turn out? Thank you. That's a question to both of them.
The riskiest decision.
Trading decision that they have ever made in stock market and in furniture, in doing business. What's the riskiest trading decision they've ever made, and how did it turn out?
All right, thank you. Benankoma, you may start. What is the time that you saw that this is a very big risk and you still went for it?
Yeah, when you talk on the stock market, I think it was a time when that was 2018, if not 19 or 20, when we bought about 30 million shares, and then we borrowed about 400 million. At that point, I wasn't so sure where the stock market was going. But I thank God that it worked out. It moved from 10 kwacha to 22 kwacha. So there was a gain of 12 kwacha. That's about 360 million kwacha within a year. So that was great. But if it had gone the other way around, we would have probably sold a house. So you were there.
That's a wonderful one. Have you ever made any risky decision, an investment or anything? What was it?
As we earlier indicated, the vocabulary of the word risk, it doesn't exist in us. We believe risk simply means acting of faith. So there was a time I went to church. It was a Sunday day. So on that particular day, the pastor who was preaching on that particular day had a subject about business. Then he stressed a point where he said, You will not grow if you keep operating from the place you're operating. At that particular time, we were operating from our house. Everything was good because it was just our house, no expenses and everything else. But then I was like, God is telling me that I should move my business from where I'm operating. What will happen next? So after the service, here's what I did. I went home, I took my lunch. Immediately, I was on my ignition. I went to search for the space, wherever God would direct me. To those who know where Davina Furnitures is today, that spot, Tinaipeza on that particular day, on that same Sunday day, it was a blessing. Today we call it a big blessing because many of you wouldn't have known us. We wouldn't have expanded to the levels that we are today if we had not located to that spot. We thank God for that.
Maybe I should add to say it was a risk or an act of faith because we were moving from where we were not paying rentals to somewhere where we were paying much huge rentals, where we had no assurance of where those rentals will be coming from.
And
so
the landlord.
And what were the rentals, to give us a picture?
I think
350,000.
No, it was $500 then.
Oh,
Yes, it was $500. But what we were generating with those kind of expenses, it was a bit hard again. Because on the other thing, it means we had to go formal with all registrations and the like. We had to sell our products with VAT. We had to start paying our income taxes and everything. So again, the landlord, he told us that if we sign the lease agreement,
7 years,
the 7 years agreement, it means if we fail to be meeting those rentals, maybe with just after a year or two, we'll still have to cover that whole 7 years. But we're like, no, still we are here. God has told us, given us this place. The same faith that Abraham used when he was taught to move from his people to wherever he had to go at that particular time. We are doing that.
Wow. All right. Coming to you, thank you for those wonderful responses. Coming to you, Benakoma, there's some here streaming from St. Cloud, Minnesota, USA. He's asking, I would like to know the process of leveraging for purchasing of stocks. I have stocks. How do I go about leveraging? I think it's that point that you said 1 million and then 1 million.
So if you've got shares, you can, let's say you've got shares worth 10 million kwacha. So I'm talking about 10 million kwacha because those are the figures that I love to talk about, 10 million and billions. So if you've got shares worth 10 million kwacha, you can borrow another 10 million kwacha. What is key from the shares that you're holding, the portfolio that you're holding, be it NBS, National Bank, is the outlay, the dividend payout. So they'll look at the dividend payout and whatever cash flow you will generate from your work or whatever it is. So like in our case, they gave us money to buy 30 million shares because they knew we were going to pay through salary deduction, dividend, and also the bonus. So we assured them of that. So they can leverage on whatever they have now by showing that they can pay. They can demonstrate that they'll be able to pay using dividends and they'll be able to pay using salary or whatever other source of income they have.
So that happens with a broker. You go to your broker. And
you can also, all they need to do is to go to the broker, to the asset manager. Because brokers, all they do is trading. But if you want to leverage, or indeed a margin, trade margin, you have to go to an asset manager because they are holding a pool of assets. Some are depositors funds, some are just stocks. So what they'll do is they'll borrow from probably a depositor who wants to place funds on the money market, and then they'll lend it to them to buy shares.
Wonderful. And I'm sure the CDH.
So in terms of asset managers, there are Continental Management, Continental Asset Management. There is Nico Asset Management. There is also Old Mutual Asset Management. So all these three, you can go there and they're able to lend you the finances that you need.
All right, thank you. A question from Bongani in Lilongwe to the Davina Furnitures couple. he or she says, now that the business is stable, are the two of you on separate payrolls, or how do you manage the profits? Also, when one of you is inspired, I like this question, I know it's going somewhere, said, when one of you is inspired to give a sacrificial seed, and the other partner, the husband or wife, is resistant, how do you resolve to maintain harmony in the business and also as a couple? So you are saying, let's give 500,000. And she's saying, no. How do you do it as a couple? How do you reconcile it? That's the question. But the first question was, have you put yourself on salary or all the profits, you eat it? How do you do it?
For paperwork's sake and to be formal, we had to put ourselves on the salary. Because if you don't put ourselves on the salary, it will be an issue with MRA. So we have no choice but to do that. We cannot just be relying on dividends and the like. So it's like a formal company whereby she has her law with her salary, I have my law with my salary. Then we bring that salary, we put it there. But when it comes to giving, we don't usually concentrate on the salary. We concentrate on what the overall what we've been making from the Davina furnitures. I indicated to answer the second question, I hope I have answered the first one.
Yes.
When we came here, and I sat on that chair and I prayed, and God spoke to me that we should give $1 million unto this church, right? Immediately, I knew that it's God who is talking to me. It's God who is commanding to me, based on what is happening on this church. And ngati nenda chimva, and me and my wife, we have the same body, and I know for sure, if I take out this same message to her, she will easily understand it, because that's how it has been happening. So to easily answer that part, it's never resistance. It once happened, like the way I indicated it, and it was pushing me for a year, but we had to still honor that kind of giving.
Before we go to Bena, maybe you want to add a word.
Okay. Mostly, I wanted to say it happens. I shouldn't say it happens, but it used to happen, as the example was already being put. And I remember I was saying, because it was me who had it, now we are not paying, this is a year. But after staying together and growing together in the word, now it feels good to give. Actually, when the other ones hears that, the other person hears that, it means you thank the Lord that at least someone has heard we need to give. We find for opportunities to give.
Wow. Where will God direct us to go and give? So sitimangonena kuti akuti atitumizira kalata akuti akutipe mpajotere koma chitima chimva mwa ife kuti God is telling us to go and give.
Wow. You know, I've also liked a certain statement here. I hope you noticed it. She said, we have grown into this. You know, we don't want to start family quarrels here. Don't go home and say, you see how your friends have been doing it. The problem, they have grown into it. It's a process. Then I'll come answer briefly on it. Then we take the second question from the audience.
Yeah, I think for me, I remember when we gave 1 million kwacha because we didn't have money. So I used an OD facility. My wife said it's fine. The challenge we have is that she's too much of a giver. So even now, sometimes you said, "Banji ajawa akufuna plot ya church jati kule 20 million." So I'm like, 20. I know it's not a lot of money. Koma chabwera bwanji chichi. I do give, but I think I take a bit of time to process. She gives a lot. She thinks of giving a lot. So much ganizira, then she will remind me, "Kani jabanji, imgwiona banji." So I say, I think there are times I'll be very honest with you. Sanamizane, go ahead. But one thing that has happened is that after that, God are doing mighty things going forward. So student has also mango chilandirira ya.
Oh, wonderful. Let's have, time seems to be running very fast. But, this wonderful couple here, they have traveled all the way from Lilongwe. And I must say they have been a blessing. The team, I was told by the team that was raising with them, we are supposed to, pay for their transportation, their accommodation, and incur the expenses. But they said, no, you don't need to do all of that. So they have come all the way. And they are just coming to Blantyre for this, and then they are going back. It wouldn't be good to just rush it. So allow me to add a few more minutes to this. Or you want us to rush it? Okay. So let's take a few more questions before we close. The audience, please, they want to ask the next question. One question, please, and direct it to one of the people. Thank you.
My question is for Mr. Nkoma.
You are where? Oh, okay, yes. Okay, your name, please, and then the question.
My name is Miriam Ohea. My question is, you've spoken a lot about mortgage and a lot about...
Sorry, where is she? I thought it was that. Oh, okay. All right, at the very back. Thank you.
Okay, you've spoken a lot about mortgage and you've used a lot of hard to understand jargon. So my question is, where do we go to learn these things? Because obviously we can just start. We have to first understand what we're doing. Or do we just go to the brokers to just tell them, okay, I want to do this, how do I do it? Or is there like a special books you can recommend or a certain course or something to learn the investing and everything?
Thank you so much for that question. What I've realized in this life is that if you really want something, you'll get it. I think most of us, if you really want something,
I like that. Please come again with that one.
if you really want something, because let's say, I'll give you an example. If I was told, and it's confirmed, that our president angundifuna, panopo, kuti pali nkhani yofunikira ina yake, ndi uyamba tulendo. So, kumakhala kufuna, it's the drive. So, anthu ambiri amakhala sakufuna. That's the reality. If you really want, you will get where the brokers are. If you really want, you get to know what it means. There's Google, there's ChatGPT. You can get it anywhere nowadays. Imatifuta ndi njala, Malawi njala.
Right, so he has answered that very well. There were also other two questions exactly on the same, which have been answered. Truda was asking from Lilongwe that Mr. Benakoma, what are the resources or channels of information that one can look at to decide which stocks to invest in? I think you have answered it. There was also another question from Tisunge from Zuzu, and was asking that, can you give me recommendation on where to find trustworthy brokers?
They are all trustworthy.
They are all trustworthy.
I've dealt with them all. They are all trustworthy.
Says they are all trustworthy. All right, thank you. Let's take another question from the audience. Please address it to the particular person. Oh,
thank you.
Sorry, before you ask, I think let's take the question from her. Before you ask, media team help us. I would like them to express themselves. We are streaming from Malawi and Chichewa is our language. If they put a Chichewa word, for the sake of those in other countries, just quickly translate for them.
Okay.
Just type it quickly for them on the chat. Thank you. What's your question?
I'm Julius Chinyam, and my question goes to Mr. Benakoma. I want to understand how it was like the first time you went on Malawi Stock Exchange. How was the experience, and what have you done to grow from there?
So initially it was my friends from college that called me that, you know what, you can do this. And that was a long time ago when I think Nico was listing on the stock exchange. The first time I got there, it was sweet. That's what I can say. It was super because we made money. That's the reality.
Wow. Wonderful. Let me read two questions to Davina Furnitures. I think they are simple questions. You can answer them together. Maron from Lilongwe wants to confirm. Says, you spoke of capital being raised through buying and selling Kaunjika. You also said it was part of the fees for your wife. Says, please confirm. At that point, said, at that point, were you married already? You were married already. Or you started using her fees before marriage? You know, I don't know why you're asking these questions. But they are not giving formulas that you also, if you're not married, you ask your friend, can I get your fees? I think that wasn't the intention. But let's still have them answer. Were you already married then?
Our presentation ended with a warning whereby we advised the singles not to do business together. Our situation was a miracle, where I had to use her tuition fee while we were still in a courtship. That was a miracle thing of understanding between each other. And again, it was a miracle for me to keep honoring, should I say, my availability to her, my commitment to her, and everything, because I could have just walked out. And I use a fees jacket, then I do other things the other side. I marry another lady.
All right, thank you. Another question before we go to Benankoma. This one is Mpaso, again from Lilongwe. Said, in business, there are a lot of compromises that you have to make. What do you consider as non-negotiable in your business? Now, this is talking about compromises in the good sense, as in, okay, maybe you can't give everything 100%, but you can also comment, should you give everything 100%? Or is there, or due to the table, not 100%, the chair is 100%, or how do you do it? That's the question.
I would say something that we don't compromise is our quality. In as much as something can't be always 100%, there are some stuff here and there, 1% of something that didn't come out as we wanted, but quality is one of the things that we don't compromise. Mostly because we know there's competition out there. Making furniture is something that one who has capacity can start today doing. But we've set our quality to be something that makes us to stand out. So that when you're making something that is of high quality, it means the one who has bought it, their house is their showroom. That is what we always talk with my husband. Let's make our customers' houses to be showrooms. So we have so many showrooms. In Zuzu, we don't have, we are operating mostly in Lilongwe, but we know we have showrooms in Blanta, Zuzu, Zomba, because of the stuff that we've made of high quality that has gone to other to customers in those areas.
Wow, wonderful. You know, allow me to take these two questions from those streaming from outside this country. I have a question from Toko from Oklahoma City, USA. The question goes to Ben. You know, allow me, for sake of time, Ben, David, Christina. You know, from Toko, the question is, would you recommend partnership for big investments such as building a mall, or you'd recommend someone to go solo if you are banking, or if you have a backing from investors? It says, if you have investors, would you rather go solo on building a mall, or would you rather go partnership? I think the question really is, what's the difference between going solo and partnership?
The difference between going solo and partnership is that when you go solo, you're taking all the risk. If you go into partnership, you're sharing that risk, and it frees up some of your cash flow to do other things. So you're better off sharing, doing it together. Another thing is that you may not be at the same level of productivity on a daily basis. So sometimes so you there's a reason why pension funds make a lot of money. It's because they're pulling resources from different people. If you try to do it on your own, it just takes a lot of toll on you. So the best is to work together as a team. Key is if you're able to trust each other and to ensure that there's a proper paperwork to direct your partnership and the ways of working. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. To the Davinas, there's a question from Nancy from the UK. This is a question. Nancy from UK is asking that you talked on patience when it comes to growing business. You said waiting 3 to 4 years to start taking out money from the business. It involved you topping up the business with your salaries, and you continued giving towards the gospel at the same time. That must have come with a certain level of discipline and putting up with a lot of pressure. So the question now is, says, I want to get more insight on that. Like, are there any principles that you incorporated to ensure, you have the discipline? What did you use to have that discipline? 3 years, all the money you're putting into the business, you're not getting. What discipline is required? Or it's the same prayer and fasting? Or there's something more?
That's a good one. Yes. I think first thing, one has to realize the kind of business is trying to establish, is trying to build. The bigger the structure, the deeper the foundation. It means you need to have time to concentrate on building the foundation in order to come up with a big structure after. But you can start eating up your monies from the business that has only lasted just for a small period. It means it would be hard for you again, because what you're eating again is the seed, or to say it's the money that you are supposed to be investing into that same business just to make that business to be big. So the discipline came in whereby we had this vision that one day, we are going to have a big kind of a business that will be producing furniture here in Malawi. Have explored the southern part of Africa. Have seen workshops. Have seen workshops in South Africa. Have seen those workshops of white people, the Indians and the like, the indigenous. From the indigenous that have visited in South Africa and other countries, I think we have the biggest workshop. We have the biggest workshop.
And you actually said that your workshop is, could be bigger than this, isn't it?
In terms of area. In terms of area, yes.
Now, if you look at this massive auditorium and something should be bigger than this, wow. Because, this auditorium is almost the same size as Comesa Hall. So if you have something bigger than Comesa Hall, I'm using Comesa Hall for the sake of those streaming. If you have something bigger than Comesa Hall, it's massive, isn't it? Wow, wonderful.
And again, we are adding another workshop, which will be, that one will be 800 square meters. Want to start producing these kind of doors that people are importing. The, what you call them, the interior doors. I've just forgotten and it just got off of me. And again, we are starting to make office furnitures. Already we have done the when the president is zooming on Zoom, he has a certain desk that he usually uses. He has replaced that desk with a Davina Furniture's desk. So it was from that order we were like, I think it's the right time for us to start beating Blockbuster. Thank you.
Wow. Wonderful. Let's take the next question from the audience. Time is now against us. Let's do it quickly.
Thank you. My name is Patience. My question sits well with the Davina couple. I would want to understand if in your business you've ever been in a place where you've been tempted to corrupt someone as the consideration for business. And if that's the case, how do you deal with that to avoid necessarily putting yourself out of business? Thank you.
Let her respond to you because she has a recent experience.
Actually, because the customers mostly visit the showroom, so I'll be the one responsible to answer. I should say we are lucky because it's just recent that we have started supplying mostly in offices or government institutions. But from the beginning, we were like saying we are household furniture business. So my experience with these statutory bodies, or maybe more especially these government institutions, they would request a request for quotation, and we in our Christianity would would write our normal prices. That's what we normally do. So they call, they are the purchasing. I know others are here, purchasing team in the government. They would call and say, well, maybe they have met one of the ladies, but they'll still say, I need the number for the madam. So they will alert me, you will receive a call from such because they came for a quotation. So most of the calls are mostly, what do you do? I was telling him that this also called from this also, I don't want to mention names, asking, what do you do? So I acted dumb, as if I don't know what he wants to say. I'm like, no, the quotation I've given you, that's the pass. Yeah, if it passes, what do you do? So I'm like, no, that's it. So, oh, you don't give commissions. There's this commission. I don't know if it's wrong or right in the eyes of God, but we don't.
The 10% commission.
Yeah, the 10%. So I told him, we don't. Simply because the prices I gave you are the prices that anyone walking in the shop would get. So actually, he stresses it. If he talks to you, don't start doing that's the point. Don't, because he knows sometimes you can be tempted. You see, okay, if you don't do, then maybe we should come, rewrite the quotation, put so much, so that you take yours, but that will be ours, but we don't.
The blessing we have in our family, we have no appetite for money, ladies and gentlemen. We don't love money, but we respect money. All right? You can persuade us with extra money. What God is giving us is enough for us, and we'll survive. He has made us to survive before we can fail now. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Let's take another question. Who is asking? Yes.
My name is Moses Chigoba, and my question is directed to Mr. Nkoma. You have told us that you've been in this industry for more than 20 years. That's good enough for us to know. But for the 20 years, we would like to know, you have seen it all, you have handled it all. We need to know, what are you going to tell us that this is not a to-do thing? Because you have said a lot. You have done profits, you have grown your money. But we want to know, what is it that we should not do, that you have seen it all through your experience and exposure? Thank you.
Wonderful. Very nice question. Let's start.
What
not to do, number one?
I think it's a very nice question and a very simple one. Don't get into places you don't understand.
1, 2.
2, don't rush into doing something you don't understand. I mean, for me, if you don't understand something, take time to understand it. I've done solar business. We did it with my wife. We lost about $300,000. And that's 2010. I was waking up every day at 1 a.m. every day for 5 years. When we had lost $300,000, we ended up, because we borrowed, we sold 5 properties. That time, I was selling solar. I'm not a solar person. I'm a financial market specialist. I now focus on financial markets. That's all. So I can't say I'll start Davina. Davina is good. Andika Kwako.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's take a question from another one.
Say, for example, from company A, you have shares, I have shares. You are a veteran, I'm just starting, and we both would like to sell our shares. What would determine my shares to be sold, or what is the factor which will be involved for me to sell the shares? if you're getting the question.
I think rephrase it. or give an example. Let's say
Let's say, for
TNM
example,
Airtel.
I have 2 shares, you have 5 shares from a company, you are a veteran, and I'm just starting. All of us would like to sell those shares. Is there a way that I may be unable to sell them and you selling them, or all of us can sell them at any time?
No, okay, that's a simple one. It all depends on demand and supply. So what you do is, on a daily basis, the brokers will share what they call an order book, where people, they don't share the names. They say, I've got an order book. TNM, 10,000 shares at this price, 20,000 shares at this price, 15,000 shares at this price, and they share to the market. So buyers make a decision, or sellers make a decision based on the order books from the brokers.
Wonderful. So you don't sell shares yourself. It's not like
you don't. Which is why, even for those that want to start investing in shares, I said don't get into something you don't understand. For if you want to invest in shares, engage a broker, engage an asset manager. They will do that for you. They are experts. If you want to do it on your own, that's when you get to the brokers. But otherwise, give it to the asset managers. I have 100,000, manage it for me. They will do it for you, and they'll give you the best return. They manage for us as well.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, let me ask these 2 questions here, and that will be all for those of you that are streaming, and I'll take 1 question or a maximum of 2 for those of us that are here physically, and that will be the end of it. Let me ask from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name properly. It seems to be a French name. From Cameroon, Lionel, or Lionel in French. The question is going to the both of them. It says, how do you deal with the dynamics of our African mindset and societal expectations, where because you are doing very well in business and industry, both immediate and extended family members expect too much from you, sometimes unreasonably so. How do you ensure family responsibilities don't overshadow business interests?
That's a good one. Pastor, I'll take that one first. In our family, we've ever stayed with 14 people. We've ever paid fees for probably 20 people. I think the truth of the matter is that we are Africans, and we cannot deny that culture. It's our culture, your Tandizana. But you just need to put limits in the way you help people. You shouldn't be pushed, but you shouldn't be aloof, because you're an African. That's who you are. So there's black tax. You have to pay. And I can somehow cock you, so what do you do? So for me, I think it's an African culture indeed, but it should not reach a point where you're really affected. Make a decision. Don't be pressured, but make a decision understanding that you are Africans.
Is there a point at which you can say no, or you can't say no?
For me, I think the yeses are very few. It's more of no's. Because the moment they know you're doing well, the problem with an African mindset is that it's got an entitlement mentality. So they'll come to you. And so say, so sometimes you tell them, you just have to be, more especially when you start to do well, you have to be blunt. Suma nyengere say, no, I will not help you. Yes, ndizanga goma. there's a reason why I don't want to do this. So you have to be blunt. You need to understand why you are helping. My wife and I, we usually help Anangono because we want to give them an opportunity to go to school. For the older people, they can take good care of themselves. Wow. For the very old people, we take good care of them. But for the 30, 25, maybe 30, 25 to 50, we don't take care, we don't mind about them. They can hang. But these Angonoa, we give them school. The other ones, they've run out of energy, we support them as well.
Wow. Oh, wonderful. How about you take the same? How do you manage it? You know the way you are, definitely, everyone is knocking on your door. We want 20,000 kwacha, 1 million. How do you handle it?
I'm the firstborn in my family, and she's the last born from her family. So from her family, we don't get much of a pressure, but from my side. So as the firstborn, mina izindizibena anabela Jacobon dalisozija. So there are moments you accept the responsibility, but what I recently did, since we are lucky, we are blessed that both of my parents are still alive. So I told my parents, Kuti, when your relatives are trying to get a certain thing or they're coming for a certain assistance from me, what we should start doing now, they should be going through you. Then when you say that need is really a necessity, it's really needed for them to be assisted, then I'll get the message from you. So now I direct all relatives to my parents. Okay, go to my mom, talk to her. If that thing is solid in her head, then she'll get to me. Go through my dad. But otherwise, like at my workshop, somebody is knocking today, the other person tomorrow, then you say, oh, I think I get a matter.
Wonderful. How have you been handling it? At the showroom is where you receive money, isn't it?
Yes.
So people are knocking right there. They know the basket is there. How do you handle it?
Yeah, maybe I would take mostly for those that just need help, that are not necessarily your relatives. So we get that a lot as well. And being Malawians, we know that we are sometimes put somewhere just to help, as he put it. So you see, there are times that you could even memorize someone who comes maybe after 2 months, so you start saying, no, I know you. But we do sometimes even just take someone we really don't know, but because what they have presented is really valid, you can even start paying school fees for them. You can even start maybe giving them a little capital for whatever they are asking for, so that they shouldn't come again. So yeah, you feel it. Timajimva, that's what he uses. You feel it that I think here I really need to help. Here, this is just someone just looking for some money. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. I said I'll take 2 questions here. I've taken from, that was Lionel or something like that. Forgive me if I didn't mention it well. That question has been answered. The final one, my team was saying to take from Lindani. Lindani is asking, what's your advice, Bena, on the counters that have dropped in share prices? Case in point being TNM shares. The immediate reaction from most was to sell off the shares and of course made losses in the process. So probably she's also holding shares and says, with what is happening with TNM, what do we do? We hold and hope for the best, or why not lose a little now than to lose much more tomorrow?
So the trick about shares is that you buy when they're at their lowest. If you buy when they've already risen, then you have a challenge. You wait for a profit warning, which they've just issued. Then you see that there's still intrinsic value in this counter. So for me, when you see shares that are dropping, so long as they've got a solid management, for me, it's the people that are running the business. If they've got a solid management team that they'll turn around, it's better to buy when they are low, because the next thing is they'll go up. They'll go up. But what goes up very high. The next thing is it comes down.
Have you bought any TNM shares yourself?
I only have a few counters that I don't participate. I participate in all counters. It's just the extent to which I participate. But otherwise, I buy all those shares. Yeah, because I need to have a diversified portfolio. In case this doesn't work, then this one works. And it has worked over time. Over 20 years, it has worked. NBS, I held it for 4 years, 4 years. We held it for 4 years. It wasn't moving. And when it moved significantly. Kena kunkumati nafe tiyambe, tinamba mukalekale tuife menemo.
Wow, wonderful. 2 questions, last questions quickly from the audience.
My name is Ben Piri. I'll be asking to Ben. My question is directed to Ben.
I said Bena. It's Amveke Chikazi and it's Bena.
Right, my question is I want you to distinguish between one's residential property and a business development business. I'm asking that for starters. You've talked about not rushing into constructing a house. And I want you to come out clear and pronounce yourself. What are you talking about? Residential or as a property development business? I'm asking that question for starters because I've done over 30 houses in my life. With my start probably at 22, I was very young, and it has ended up being profitable. So what are you talking about? Residential or property development as a business, so that they don't get scared to venture into construction?
So, thank you so much, Pastor. I think I was actually talking to those that are maybe starting out. They are working 3-4 years, and probably they think they are not getting a blessing because they haven't built their own house. If you want to build and sell, for me as a business, and you've got capital, because the key is capital. If you've got 3 million kwacha, it will be difficult to do a property development business. You should be looking at more than 3 million kwacha. So for me, it's the initial capital outlay. How many people can afford, say, 100 million to be building properties? There will probably be very few. So it's the initial capital outlay that I was looking at. So whichever way you want to look at it, the initial capital outlay for property is much higher than shares. The initial capital outlay for somebody who is working or who is just starting a business is much higher. You are better off trading kakulachi mangalero per 12 kwacha or 25,000 per bag, and you sell it at 30, you make a small margin, and you move on, and then you can start to buy a property later on. That's how I was looking at it.
Wow, thank you. Allow me that on that note is where we close today. I know there are still many more questions, but that's what we could take for one day. Tomorrow we are meeting again, and we want you to go rest, reflect on what has been said, and tomorrow you come back fresh. We are meeting tomorrow evening, and tomorrow we also have amazing presentations. So let's go and rest and come back tomorrow. Your final words. Let's start from there. Christina, your final words in 2-3 minutes. What do you want to tell someone? What do you want someone to carry home? What do you want to inspire someone with?
What I can say is that business is possible when you know what you want to do. And I should also say, it's not only when you are concentrating on the business that it works. You can be working and doing business. We have friends who have known people that are CEOs that are doing good at work as well as business. So maybe some people would say they want us all to quit and start a Davina who will buy the other. No, whatever you're doing, as long as you put your all on it, then it will work. Thank you.
You know, I think that this advice, you have said it, I think, twice or 3 times. Let's take it seriously. You know, especially young people. You're always looking at, I want, the terminology they use is, I want something of my own. I want something of my own. So you find a very young person says, you know, I'm quitting my job. I want to do my own things. Some call it hustling. You know, you hustle your way out of life. You know? Don't just dive into, they have said it 3 times. You know, that should tell you how serious it is. And he said it, he also said it, that if you are able to do both, why not do both? You know? Until a point where you cannot do both. Then you leave out one and you do the other. Okay? So thank you for that one. Your last words. You didn't manage to finish the presentation, but you can pick out anything that you really wanted to say.
Okay, with your permission, Pastor, allow me to, I have to recognize the availability of Dr. Ben Piri. We go to church together. When he heard that we are coming here to give a speech, he promised that he will be part of the audience. So, posini magona ni bwana wanga, but we are greatly honored that you are here to grace this occasion. We have been humbled, honestly, down from my heart. Mwana salililana, agakalawa ngono. Unless there are some circumstances. When you're starting a business, ubwana usawiyambile when the business is small, you have to hustle it by yourself. You have to get the deep understanding of what that business is. To the extent whereby, mwana galila, as a parent, you know why that baby is crying. So you're able to know the circumstances that your business are going through.
Allow me to request him, just start again, so just put it in English only.
Okay.
For the sake of the international audience. Especially this phrase, mwana akalira, that one, just try to put it in English.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, as a parent, you are directly responsible to take care of a kid at the infant age by yourself. You don't have to delegate that kind of a responsibility to another person, because that's the moment, that's the stage where God has given you the opportunity to have a deep understanding on the needs and the wants of that kid, because the way the kid behaves, that behavior is taken from the ground. So it gives us that deep understanding on how to raise and keep nurturing that kid. The same applies in business. You don't have to delegate your business as at a very, very starting stage. You have to be directly involved by yourself. You have to get the deep understanding and the knowledge and how to transact your business. Then it reaches a point whereby you send your kid to your kid to secondary school. That's a teenager age. The same applies to business. It's like the teachers and you yourself are both raising that kid, right? The same applies to business. Then you involve others. While you're still involved in the business, you bring in others to be helping you to be pushing on that business. Then the kid goes to university, then starts a job, right? After he gets the job, then you find that kid is able to sustain by himself, buying things by himself, doing some stuff by himself. The same applies with the business. It reaches a certain stage where you're not directly involved. It runs by itself. It supports by itself. You simply go and enjoy the fruits. Okay, like once, right? Once we start working after graduating from college, that's the moment whereby our parents start enjoying of the fruits they invested in. So raise the business, push your business, start a business, control your business, and manage it by yourself like the Indians. Thank you.
Wow. That's a nice one. You can be your first, you can be the employer and the employee. Don't just start a business and then you have employed everyone. You know, there are some of you here, I don't know, I think it's also, this is also a word of wisdom. There are many people employing people here. And some of them, I'm seeing you now. You know, you just started something, you now have that employee, and you don't even understand your business, you have already employed people. And these are some of the questions, sir, that come to me. is the one I employed, has now started his own business. It's against, no, no, no. Go and learn it on your own. I really like this point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Bena, your final words. If there is anything you really wanted to say, you can say it now in some 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pastor. I think for me, the first thing that I want to share with you is that you have to be patient. I went into executive management role when I was in my 30s, probably around 33. I retired when I was 53, after 18, 20 years as an executive. So you don't rush. Be patient. Learn the trade. So I retired. My wife retired too. She was a partner. She retired. I do the talking, the selling. She does the administrative part of it. The second thing is building and investing in relationships. I know Professor Malata from a long time ago and her husband. I call him almost every month. We talk. We call each other Hona, and then we chat for probably an hour with Mr. Stuart Malata. I learn from them, and I make sure that there are times let me just talk to Mr. Malata, because they've mentored us growing up. So I do call them even now. I also talk to people that are below me, the CFAs of this time, those that are just starting, and they understand, they do their works. I call a certain chap, Paul Mojo. I'll ask him, how do you look at the market? How do you look at... So I do invest in relationships. I even go to Mariro Antu just to ensure that I invest in that relationship. Sometimes there are people that I don't know, but I want to build a relationship. I even go to their Zikwati Sana, or indeed to give a gift, just to invest in a relationship. So invest in relationships. The third thing is remain humble. Growing up, I've seen people going up and coming down. You know, even when the Lord blesses you, remain humble. If you can support those that are disadvantaged, please, by all means, do so. So find it in your heart to support even those that are less disadvantaged. Don't say, "Tichinjoye sopano na fet na votiki." But if you used to go to your church, continue to go to that church. Don't say, "Now ndakula sopano ndizikapemphera ku Nigeria kaya kuti." You know, you know where you got your blessings from. So let's stay humble. I'll say that. Thank you so much.
All right. The Chichewa point he said that if you have been going somewhere, let's say for church, keep going there. He was emphasizing on remain humble. Help those that you can. He said you can go to weddings, you can go to funerals. Thank you. Once again, I would like to thank you for honoring our invitation, and thank you for honoring our invitation. As we stand up we all stand up, and as they make way to their seats, I would want us to all stand up and give them a round of applause. Let's clap hands for them. Wonderful. Thank you once again for coming. Thank you once again.